Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Anyone have any urban legends in their area? I'm from a small town. A man killed his entire family except for one of his daughters with an axe. It's a creepy story. That man was a churchgoer and started coming up with Bible theories, etc. I think it was a case of undiagnosed schizophrenia, but it was shocking to find out this happened, and most people in my town didn't really know. When I was really young, there were rumors of Satanists going around. Supposedly, some people sacrificed cats or something. There's an unfinished hotel in my town. All the owners died in strange circumstances, allegedly, and this was supposed to be the reason why it went unfinished. Some people told me it was built on top of an old plague mass grave. I've been there once. It's a cool building to urban explore in, but it's supposedly haunted at night. There's a stone in the forest, away from the town, where you can hear voices if you press your ear against it. Off the sea, maybe 200 meters, there's a large boulder that is called the Devil's Stone. When the sea is a bit dry, the tip can be seen. It's just a normal stone, I think. A few times there were people from not my town going around in a car and trying to get kids and young adults to enter. There was supposedly more than one person inside. Not paranormal, just sick people. I've seen things, and I think my birth home is haunted. My local village has a reputation for being an alcove for pirates who'd fool people into crashing off the coast in stony shoals during storms. The bodies would wash up, bloated, and they'd cut the legs to dry them out for rubber boots. Ergo, they were known as the Leg Cutter Gang. My brother disturbed the local graveyard as a child and desecrated the grounds. Some years later, he went for a walk with his friend who was seeing a goth girl, so the nightly walk in the graveyard. My brother started seeing faces in the trees and other disturbing images. He went home and slept with a screwdriver out of fear. On the door leading to the part of the home where my brother sleeps, on the window thing, there was a big handprint the day after. My brother has large hands. That print was almost double. I saw it myself, although I don't remember very well if it was really that big or my brother lied to me. He was very scared though. I saw a shadow man as big as a fully grown elk. It glided through the deep snow with no sound and left it undisturbed. One night I woke up to a dream where I saw the devil. He was a man with a smooth, grayish skin with bumps and small horn-like protrusions on his face. This dream was unlike any because his visage was not terrifying, but I felt a sense of nothingness, no fear or apprehension, total annihilation of thought or being. Thus this is what it means to be in hell, separated by God. He was an agent of the void. Many strange people lived in my town. It is more like a small village. There's beautiful beaches and the blue sea. There's also these things. I'm glad I left. This is all. I hope you enjoyed it.
Not really an urban legend per se, but I spent a couple of weeks with my parents and sister at my grandmother's village north of my country. I love the place and go whenever I can, and it's one of those places where you know everybody and everybody knows you, especially since I've been visiting on and off since I was months old. The village is right in the middle of a valley, surrounded by mountains where local farmers keep cows. I'll green text something and then explain. Be a kid who's hiking with father who's a farmer. On our way to take the cows to lower ground because winter. Path we've taken a million times. There's a rock outcrop about 100 to 200 meters ahead of us. Sudden eerie sound. Hard to explain, as if you could mix a human scream and a truck horn. WTF. A few meters later. Sound again. I have no clue what this is. Dad is shitting bricks. Tells me to turn back to the village. As we're heading down, we hear the sound closer. Turn around, there's a dude on top of the outcrop. I presume it's a dude, but it's covered in something dark, like fabric but not quite. Why, but I'm shitting bricks. Sound again. Whatever that is starts rising one arm, very slowly until it forms a 90-degree angle with his chest. Pointing at something. Dad tells me to run. Leg it. I've heard people, mainly older farmers, talking about whatever that is, before and after the kid from the Greentext told me one night. I've been to the area lots of times and never heard or seen anything. I thought I heard something similar once, but it was probably me just wishing I heard it. As I've said, it's not quite an urban legend because it's not known outside of the village and younger people don't seem to know about the story. The village is well known because of other stuff in the area, but not because of this.
Reminds me of when I went to visit my friend in Rosedale, British Columbia. It's a small town near Chilliwack. I was about 15 at the time. My friend was terrified to be in his house alone because of weird noses, and his parents were on vacation, so I got their permission to come hang out and stay overnight until they got back. It was summer, so we had no school, and we were up late playing split-screen co-op as Call of Duty World at War. Right in the middle of a game, and my friend goes,
"Hold on, I gotta check something,"
and runs downstairs. I follow him, of course, and he's frantically checking all of the windows and doors to make sure they are locked, and then I heard it. Sounds similar to the one you described, only farther away. I must have been too absorbed with the game to hear it the first time, but he did. I ask him what that was, and he just says,
"I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't want to look."
I thought he was gonna deck me when I tried to move the curtain on his back door to look out the window. It was too dark to see anything anyway, but yeah, I was sufficiently scared shitless even though I was pretending like I wasn't. Went back upstairs and hid in his room and just listened. Heard some more noises downstairs, like something scratching on the back door. We were both terrified.
There's quite a few where I live. I accidentally found out the real story of one that no one around here seems to know. It's interesting because you can see how it evolved over time. I'll not bother with that one though. I'll just do a more generic one that I can't remember if I've shared before or not. This old church by the river was built in around 1100. Can imagine it's been renovated several times during then and now. Looks like absolute trash now because they'd modernized it. Anyway, it was used as a first alarm system because Vikings would cruise up the river on raids. The church was the first place that would see them coming and would ring their bells to let people in the town know. One day this happens and the Vikings attack the church. Church has this little secret escape in it that brings you out about 50 yards away on this quiet path. One of the nuns uses it, but there's Vikings on the path who she runs into. They murder her. Path and obviously the church all still exist. Rumored that from time to time you can see the nun on the path. People have taken pics, but they're always too blurry to see anything decent, or I would post one. The path is spooky though. Especially with it being next to the river because the fog rises up from it in the morning and covers it. Still has those old Victorian street lamps on which make it even spookier at night because they're dull as shit. All of that green text is historical fact BTW, apart from the nun's spirit actually being there, there's no hard evidence of that except what people have said and the blurry pics. Although the spooky path is still officially called Nun's Walk because of her.
Look up El Hombre Gato de Brandsen. Basically, in the mid-80s there were reports of people assaulted by a man wearing all black and a cat mask. Sometimes, this cat man would crawl up walls, meow in a deep and loud, clearly human voice, scratch at doors and roofs throughout the night. Years later, sightings of the cat man started to surface around nearby cities, but this time multiple cat men were identified. My family and my friends' families said you could hear loud meowing at night, and see the cat men jump from roof to roof. My mom says she heard them stomp on the roof of her house during that time, several times during the night. Kids weren't allowed to leave their homes by night because some children had gone missing during cat man sightings, and various people had been assaulted. Personally, I think this started as one weirdo who wanted to cause some mischief, and an unrelated nearby group adopted his customs and became a kind of gang. Some people think they were part of a cat cult, and that some if not all of the cat men were real cat-human hybrids, demons, or monsters.
There is a lake in the state where I live where people claim it wasn't a lake before, but was a small town. One day a dam broke and flooded everything and turned it into a lake. Legends say that when there is a storm you can see the tip of the church that existed there, and around the lake you can see the spirit of a woman who died there during her marriage. My mom used to date a trucker, and he said one time he ran over a woman on the road next to the lake. Then when he stopped the truck there was no sight of her. Not exactly a urban legend, but my aunt has a summer house on a beach and one of her neighbor is a Minecraft YouTuber. He kidnapped a kid one day and was almost lynched by the locals, but police stopped the crowd. He stopped going there for a few years, but now he is back. Since it's a beach area, every summer different people rents there, so no one knows the story.
Centralia, Washington. Don't live there anymore but grew up there. My friend used to tell me this story about a ghost that haunted Seminary Hill, the Faceless Child. The story goes like this. In the 1930s, during the middle of the night, a child was kidnapped from his house at the base of the hill. The father of the kid and some neighbors went looking for him. They never found the boy or the kidnapper. There is a specific trail that is quite overgrown and secluded. If you walk on this trail alone on certain evenings, you will hear what sounds like a child crying, and you'll see a kid wearing dirty pajamas facing away from you. If you call out to the kid or try to approach him, he will turn around to reveal that he has no face, and then he'll kill you. It was never specified if he had no face as in the complete lack of any facial features, or if his face skin was cut off. I never asked. I don't really know if that qualifies as an urban legend or not, but almost every kid in my neighborhood knew the story. We were all scared shitless to go up the hill alone.
Not even an urban legend, but I feel it kinda fits the theme. My friend, when in high school, stayed out past his curfew. There was a train track that went over the river. It saved like 15 minutes of walking over the tracks instead of going all the way around to the road bridge and doubling back. So he decided to run along the tracks. Train came as he was on the bridge part of the tracks right as he was at the end of it. So it wasn't over the river anymore, but there was still a very steep embankment that was probably like 35 feet down at a 45-degree angle. He jumped down, tumbled, and when he got up he saw a body hanging from a tree. He went in for a closer look, not being sure as it was very dark. Guy hung himself there, I guess. He was a talented painter. I went through his sketchbook once and there were dozens of drawings on a guy hanging, his face black and eyes plucked out.
Not necessarily creepy, but interesting, I think. Happened to my dad. Late 90s. Grandpa is run over by a truck in a parking lot. Mom gets a call that her dad is in critical condition at the hospital and needs to get there fast if she wants to see him before he passes. Dad, Mom, and I get in the car and start tearing down the road, way over the speed limit. Suddenly Dad hears Grandpa's voice in his head, clear as a bell. The voice tells my dad to slow down, no sense risking our lives as he is already gone. Dad slows down the car. When we arrived at the hospital, we were told that Grandpa passed away while we were en route. Dad is convinced that Grandpa's spirit spoke to him.
I like stories like these, where people on the verge of death appear to someone who is miles away. I have one sort of like that. When I was 10, my grandpa on my mom's side was dying. Mom adored him. She and Dad dropped everything to go see him in his final moments. We're poor though, so they had to drive because plane tickets were too expensive. Aunts and uncles are there already, and they tell Dad that Grandpa passed away a couple of hours earlier. RIP. Fast forward years later. Dad and I are talking about Grandpa. And he says,
"Did I ever tell you what happened?"
Apparently Mom kept nagging him about every little thing the entire drive up there. Dad of course let it slide since he knew my mom was just upset. But it's like 1 second she's griping at him and the next she's sobbing, and then praying, just chaos the whole drive.
Then at one point she just goes dead silent and I figure she wore herself out and fell asleep.
Dad looks over at Mom and is surprised to find her smiling with tears streaming down her face. He's like, "Da fuck," and asks her if she's alright.
My dad's fine. He's gone.
Dad gets chills. 2 hours later they arrive at Grandpa's house and are greeted by my aunts and uncles. That's when he realizes Grandpa died at the same time Mom was acting spooky. But here's the crazy part. Months later, Mom tells Dad that she heard Grandpa's voice in the car at the moment he died. First she heard Grandpa's voice audibly calling her name. Then she felt my grandpa talking to her, but almost like in images instead of words. Then she got an overwhelming feeling of love and she knew that Grandpa had passed away. I asked my mom about it later and I loved her explanation. So anyway, Mom tells me this. I felt almost like a little girl again, with your grandpa getting onto me when I did something bad. She said she felt like Grandpa told her, "Quit, you're nagging and you're crying, I'm fine." Then she kept thinking the words,
Death isn't the end of the world.
I thought her description was really cool because that's exactly how my grandpa talked in real life. He was a quit your crying type of guy, a little rough, but never overly harsh. A straight shooter, as we say here. That death isn't the end of the world sounds so much like him. Rest in peace, Grandpa. I wish I had appreciated you more while you were alive.
Visiting girlfriend. She had to move across the country and move back in with her parents because her mom was terminally ill. Staying in her family's home for the trip. The guest bedroom isn't really furnished, just a wrought iron bed and some old blankets. Walls plastered in some cheap wallpaper from the 70s. Only other piece of furniture is a desk and a rickety wooden chair off in the corner. I would have slept in the same bed as my girlfriend, but her room hadn't gotten a new bed since she was a teenager. She's 5'4", I'm 6 feet in every direction. Trying to go to bed in the guest bedroom after a long day of hanging out with my girlfriend, keeping her company. It's way too hot to get to sleep, no windows, no AC, no fan, nothing. Decide screw, I'm sleeping on the couch. Grab my shit and exit the guest bedroom. The house was only one story, just really wide. The hallway to each of the bedrooms and the bathroom was sort of open at the end, so you had a clear view of the living room into the kitchenette. TV was on, volume off, playing some kind of baby cartoon. I realize that someone is sitting on the couch. They seem to have pretty long hair, so I assume it's just my girlfriend or her mother. Walk over and ask what she's doing up this late. It's girlfriend's mom. She just smiles at me, doesn't say anything, just gets up and silently walks into the bathroom. I get that little tingle of goosebumps as I lay down, switching the channel to Adult Swim. Manage to fall asleep. Get woken up by my girlfriend screaming. Immediately get off the couch, hardly have the time to clear my vision before I've bolted into the bathroom. Her mother had slit her wrists in the bathtub. Guess she didn't want to die to whatever her disease was instead of by her own hand.
Be me, work for a dude who has a workshop next to his house. His kids come over to the shop all the time to play. Youngest daughter is 2 or 3 years old, can't talk yet, only says, "Hey. Hey." I live alone, in the middle of nowhere. My house backs up to a couple hundred acres of dense, unoccupied woods. On my back porch, around 2 a.m., smoking a cig. From the woods, clear as day, hear, "Hey. Hey," exactly as the daughter would say, same voice. No way anyone would be in those woods at 2 a.m., let alone a toddler. Immediate chills. Immediately think of the movie Predator, and Missing 411. Nope. GIF. Go inside, lock the door, get a gun. A year later, and my dog still looks out the window at those woods at night and growls, can never see anything. Pretty sure something tried to lure me into those woods. You couldn't pay me enough to go into those woods at night. Weird thing is, I live 20 miles away from work. How did it know what to mimic? Spooking myself now even typing the story. I am the Anon who made this original post. So today, /x/ gets a rare green text update. I'll give some more context of what was going on at this time. Summer of 2022. As stated, be me, live alone in the middle of nowhere next to woods. In this house, there are big windows from the living room/kitchen that look out into these woods. An incident from the previous screen cap happens. Start having the strong feeling that someone or something is out in the woods, watching me. Up late almost every night drinking liquor and smoking cigarettes to excess. Start being paranoid and afraid when at home, especially at night. Also frantic racing thoughts, depression, insomnia, forgetfulness, anger. Start never going outside at night, except right outside the door to smoke, but have a gun when I do that. Keep all the doors double locked, keep a gun nearby when inside. Used to walk in the woods at night and solo camp all the time, and generally keep doors unlocked and gates open unless leaving for more than a day, so this behavior is very unusual for me. Would chalk all this up to drinking too much or just being isolated for too long, except during this time, my dog would look out the window directly into the woods where I heard the "hey, hey," and growl and aggressively bark. This would happen every single night. She used to run around and chase animals. Would not leave the porch at night. I can tell what her different barks mean. Human, coyote, squirrel, etc. Never heard this growling or bark before. Confirms to me that something is out there. Maybe 2 to 3 months later. Again, outside on the porch around 3 a.m., smoking a cig. Pitch dark outside. Suddenly I hear, 3 times in succession, in front of me, to the right of me, and behind me. The sound of a tire squeal, sounds like a sound effect from a N64 game or something. Sounds identical each time, clear as day. No paved road or cars anywhere nearby. Eventually I started to get tired of whatever was going on. I wondered if maybe it was demonic in nature, previous experiences with that. Smudged my whole house with a cedar stick and authoritatively told whatever was bothering me that it was not welcome here. Everything is back to normal now. I feel no fear outside at night. Also correction, this was the summer of 2021, not 2022. So in the last 6 months or so, I started listening to the podcast Sasquatch Chronicles, months after these experiences. I've listened to all the free ones now, some more than once. Strongly recommend if you're an X-File. Tons of credible stories. But yeah, some stuff about mimicry, including noises like a car door closing, way deep in the woods where there could be no vehicle. Who knows what's going on with these things? Also, in the documentary Missing 411, The Hunted, there is a story of a lady hunting in a tree stand, and what looked like the predator in his camouflage. To me, that's scarier than a Bigfoot, if there is something like predator hunting people in the woods, and can use calls. Also, if I heard 3 of them, and they were hunting together and had me surrounded. I was planning on going camping tonight, haven't gone in 2 years, but now I'm not so sure. If I go, and anything happens, I will report it here if this thread is still up. Okay, so I did not go camping last night. But get this. Just now, like an hour ago, a repair truck went through 2 closed gates, drove through our property, past the house, through the woods, and directly to the spot I was going to camp. It's a spot where a house used to be, so it's kind of flat and cleared out. I have a fire ring and a picnic table there. There hasn't been a house or power to that spot in like 25 years. They did not call ahead of time or stop to knock at the door. As they were leaving, I walked out to talk to them. The guy said, they want us to see if we can run power to that spot. Why? Who? Nobody here asked to have that done. Makes 0 sense. WTF kinda glowy BS is this? Am I a targeted individual? Why? WTF is going on? I might have to make a thread about this. There is also a bunch of /x/ stuff I didn't include in my posts so far. Based on the logo on the truck, this is the company they were from.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.